Let's talk about some standout plays and players from today's camp practice, which is Monday, August 8th. Look at the battle at right tackle. Hear from Coach Reid, Chris Jones, Creed Humphrey, and Josh Gordon. Then look at a noticeable standout receiver at today's practice who could indeed be fighting with Josh Gordon himself for a spot on the roster, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? What's up, guys? My name is Cole, aka Beardro McSwaggins. I like that. Or sometimes known as the red-bearded bald bandit, who's back with another freaking banger. So make sure to sub. If you're new for the most thorough content on the platform, hit that like button if you're ready for the Chiefs' first preseason game this Saturday. Let's get into this video, starting with an injury report from today's practice. Both cornerback Rashad Fenton, his shoulder, and offensive tackle Lucas Niang, his knee, remain on the active PUP list and are still sitting out of practice, which has not changed since training camp started, and because of that, I feel like a literal broken record about those two, but it is what it is. And then tight end Jody Fortson once again missed practice due to his quad injury, and that makes 7 practices in a row that he's missed. It seems to me they are taking their time, being extra careful with Fortson at the moment is all. I don't think it's anything major. And while I don't think he will play in Saturday's game, he should be good to go here soon. I'll definitely let you know either way. Wide receiver Gary Jennings is still recovering from his concussion, and Taylor Stallworth's knee contusion is still healing up, so they both did not participate in practice either. And the only addition to today's injury report from today, how many times am I going to say today, is once again wide receiver Darius Fountain, who is still dealing with that groin issue, and Coach Reid said today that it is a groin strain. Specifically, imagine if it was a groin sprain. That would make for interesting convo. Anyway, this is a tough time for Fountain, who seems to continue battling multiple small injury setbacks during this last week or so of camp, and he's someone that's fighting for a spot on the bottom of the wide receiver roster, so I'm sure he's not happy about being out once again, as that means other players are getting more time to potentially shine out on the field. Players like Josh Gordon, who spoke to the media today, and Cornell Powell, who had yet another standout practice. And we'll talk more about those guys later, because right now I want to mention an addition the Chiefs made to the roster. That's right, the Chiefs signed defensive end Matt Dickerson, who was seen at practice wearing number 96, literally 69 backwards this morning. Dickerson is listed as 6'5", 292 pounds, and is only 26 years young. He spent 3 seasons with the Titans after going undefeated in 2018, then spent some time with the Chokeland Faders and the Arizona Cardinals before getting released by them on July 29th, 10 days ago or something, of this year. And to make room on the roster for Dickerson, the Chiefs waived defensive end Shalik Calhoun goodbye. So Matt Dickerson in, Shalik Calhoun out. All right, enough of that. Let's move on to today's practice, which was basically a glorified walkthrough, a mental day, as the players took the field in helmets, shells, and shorts for a lighter practice that emphasized the fundamentals of the playbook. Specifically, this was another 10-10-10 practice, which includes 2 to 3 cycles of 10 offensive plays, defensive plays, and special teams plays. These practices provide an opportunity to gain mental reps and build muscle memory while ideally achieving what success should look like in any given situation. So let's start today with some defensive standouts, starting with defensive end Frank the Shark Clark, as Daniel Harms from RGR was in attendance today, that little legend. And this is what he said about Frank. I can't say enough about how mature Frank Clark looks, acts, and feels. I didn't realize he touched Frank, maybe a handshake, signing autographs right now, and he's just been great. First step looked great today too. I'm excited to see him this year. And Chris Jones spoke to the media today, referring to Frank Clark multiple times as his brother, and had nothing but great things to say about Clark and his impact and influence on the team as a leader. But speaking of leaders, we all know Chris Jones himself is a leader on the team and has grown quite a bit over the years, in which Andy Reid had this to say about him during his presser.
Yeah, I mean, Chris has grown up right before us. I think we've seen that. I mean, he's going wild out here every day and maximum effort. He's in great shape. Over the last few years here, he's really dedicated himself to being in tip-top shape and pushing himself. He's a fun-loving guy, but he's learned to funnel that into when he's on the field. It's all business.
Jones is all business on the field indeed, and could be seen out there today making several plays, including one in which another gnat. Anyway, he could be seen out there making several plays today, including one in which he would have laid out Dustin Crum had this been an actual game. Chris Jones is no stranger to sacks, being the CEO of Sack Nation himself, although he's struggled in the postseason with sacks, recording 0 sacks in the playoffs, to be exact, in his NFL career, and he was actually asked about that today. And yes, I'm serious. One of the reporters literally asked him if having 0 sacks in the postseason bothered him, and here was his response.
No, I got a postseason ring. I got a championship ring, you know what I mean? So when you talk about a postseason sack, I'm not really striving for postseason sacks. The game plan changed, the ordeal of the D-line, it changed. So when you talk about that, I have a ring. I have more rings than sacks, but this year I get a sack, if it makes y'all happy.
Of course it bothers this man who hasn't had a sack in the postseason and put the loss against the Bengals in the AFC Championship on his freaking shoulders. What kind of question is that, dude? Jeez Louise, whoever asked that question, no soup for you now or ever. But let's move on to someone who is more politically correct than me, and that is senior reporter of the Chiefs, Matt McMullen, as he shared some defensive highlights and standouts in his article today. And here's what he said. The defensive period got off to a strong start on Monday as linebacker Willie Gay tallied a pass breakup and a near interception on QB Shane Buechele early in practice. Defensive back L'Jarius Sneed also had a strong practice, tallying a pass breakup over the middle and later an interception on rookie quarterback Dustin Crum. Safety Juan Thornhill, meanwhile, tallied an interception on a deep pass. And yeah, let's pause here for a moment because as you can see in this clip, who the heck was Dustin Crum throwing the ball to? Not good. Back to Matt, though, he says, additionally, rookie cornerback Trent McDuffie made a heads-up play during practice that will likely further endear himself to defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. Cornerbacks are required to be willing tacklers in Spags' scheme. Get away, you little gnat. And while it seems like an obvious prerequisite to play professional football, the reality is that making physical plays on the ball carrier is not always a strength of young corners. Fortunately, McDuffie, who was an excellent run defender in college, has the traits to thrive in that area right away. That awareness and willingness was evident during Monday's practice as McDuffie successfully stopped a QB bootleg run by Shane Buechele short of the end zone. It may seem like a small note, but McDuffie's ability to diagnose the QB run and to ultimately stop it is an encouraging sign for his development. So let's freaking go. First round pick Trent McDuffie, who he stole from the Buffalo Bills, and you can't tell me any different. The first rounder continues to stand out and shine over the last few days of training camp, and it's glorious news for all of Chiefs Kingdom that this is happening. Chris Jones had some high praise for the Chiefs secondary today, in spite of them losing key leaders like Tyrann Mathieu.
We was able to bring in Justin Reid, and we keep moving forward. I trust in Veach and Coach Reid to make those decisions, and whoever they bring, I think is best for the team. And, Justin Reid, he's been a pivotal guy, forces one to step up. And, one has answered that bell. He has answered that call. And I think it's been good for this defense as a whole.
In Veach, we trust indeed. And from here, let's hit the ping pong ball over to the other side of the table and talk about the offense for a bit, starting with the big guys up front. As Pete Sweeney noted, the Chiefs' first-team offensive line rotation was interesting this morning, to say the least. Andrew Wiley started at right tackle for half the plays. And after half the series, he slid into right guard. Trey Smith took off, maybe a water break, Gatorade, who knows, maybe even a cigarette. And Jerron Christian came in at right tackle. And on the next series, Orlando Brown came off after 6 plays. And left to right, the line looked as follows. Jerron Christian, Tooney, Humphrey, Smith, and Wiley. Sweeney also noted that Darian Hulk Smash Kennard has looked good, but at this stage, it feels like the team is only considering Wiley or Christian for the top right tackle role, something to monitor as practices progress and preseason games commence, certainly. And on the subject of the offensive line, Seth Walder from ESPN recently released an article predicting the NFL's best and worst offensive lines. Then he ranked all 32 teams' pass and run block win rates for 2022. And we have to talk about this because the Chiefs are looking good. Great, in fact. But first, here's how the rest of the AFC West looks. We got to talk about these losers because it's the AFC West. They're in our division. The Chokeland Faders are 29th overall with a predicted pass block rank of 24th and a run block rank of 32nd. Whew, that's horrible. And bad news, Bears, for Patrick Mahomes' son, who struggles with being an average QB as it is. Next on the list is the Los Angeles Chargers, who aren't that much better with a rank of 23rd overall and a predicted pass block rank of 23rd and run block rank of 22nd. And next up is the Denver Let's Ride Broncos, all the way up at the 4th spot overall, which honestly, spells great things for Russell Let's Ride Wilson, at least in the first half of the season until he begins his infamous back season fade into nothingness, playing equivalent to the level of Derek Carr himself. The author Seth Walder, what a name, predicts the Broncos' pass block ranked to be 5th and their run block ranked to be 6th, so that's honestly good news for the Broncos, no trolling aside. And then at the top of this list, yes, the tippity top of Everest itself, Walder ranks the Chiefs' offensive line as 1st overall in the entire league, giving a predicted pass block rank of 1st and run block rank of 5th, with the projected starters being Orlando Brown Jr., Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Andrew Wiley. And obviously, as of recently, since this article was dropped, Wiley and Christian have been dividing up snaps, but I still think Wiley is indeed the projected starter for now. There's just no way to see who else is capable at the right tackle position until you put them in said position and give it a go at practice, a la Jerron Christian. As of recently. Anyway, the star of the O-line, Creed Humphrey himself, spoke with the media today and is fully prepared to be his best self here in year 2, though Coach Reid first, before Humphrey got to the stand, said that he will see more adjustments this year from other teams as they now have a lot of tape on Humphrey.
I would tell you Creed's challenge is this year. You know, he was a newcomer last year. Now all these coaches have had a chance to study him for an off season. And, they'll try to throw him some different pitches in there.
And Creed doesn't seem overly concerned about this, though, as he said other teams aren't the only ones that will be making adjustments.
But it's also something that you can kind of see coming if you're watching film, what they like to do against, certain types of things. So it's really, they're going to make adjustments, but, so do we.
All right. Back to practice, in which Chad Henne seemed to step aside for the most part today, giving room to Dustin Crum and Shane Buechele to battle it out as one of these guys fights for what is most likely a spot on the practice squad. The other one is going to go bye-bye. And from what I read and watched on Buechele today, he seems to have stood out a bit more than Dustin Crum, though I could be wrong. It's a toss-up, but Buechele has the fact that he's been on the team for a year in his favor for sure, and is more likely the favorite to lock in the QB spot because of that, but time will certainly tell as they will get some real reps soon in a preseason game, specifically this Saturday. And as far as running backs are concerned, Isaih Pacheco continues to stand out and get discussed. Kevin Clark said, "I'm not a big this team loves their own player reporter guy, but I had 2 Chiefs people unprompted bring up how impressive Isaih Pacheco is." Daniel Harms noted that Pacheco has looked very much the pass catching part live, excellent hand usage, attacks the ball in the air like me against this stupid gnat flying around and makes it look easy. And Brett Coleman, who has a YouTube channel with over 330,000 subscribers, that's a lot. He said this today about Pacheco: Isaih Pacheco needs to be on every team you run this year as a late round investment, regardless of format, best ball, dynasty, or redraft. It doesn't matter. Every single one. So, listen to this man as he knows a thing or two about ball, and book it. Anyway, CEH also got a shout out from Nick Jacobs, who said, "I know it's a 10-10-10 day, but Clyde looks quick out there today. So nice job, CEH." I believe McKinnon got some reps in with the ones today as well, but it was a pretty quiet day overall for Ronald Jones. I literally couldn't find anything on this man as I was digging through the Twitter time-space continuum. And as far as receivers go, let's move over there. Mahomes had a couple solid deep passes to McCole today, including this one here, in which Mahomes connects nicely way downfield. And Mahomes himself commented today that he believes McCole will be the guy, stepping up to fill in some of those deep routes that Tyreek used to run.
I think McCole has, I think he's taken that step of kind of feeling that it's kind of, he's going to have to take over a lot of that spot that Tyreek did of those deep routes. And he's kind of accepted that challenge. And everybody kind of developing and kind of doing that different type of stuff, but he's going to be a big part of it, and I'm excited for him.
So yeah, I do believe McCole will be one of those guys indeed, but I also think MVS will play a role here as well, but not just on the vertical threat game, as Matt McMullen notes himself, saying today that Marquez Valdes-Scantling is known, yes, for his vertical threat due to his tremendous speed. He ran faster than Tyreek last year on the field, by the way, but unlocking his ability as a red zone target has clearly been an emphasis in camp, which you can see here via this nice little catch in the back of the end zone thanks to KCSN. Thank you very much, you legends. From Mahomes to MVS, and while it was a nice connection, I'm trying to figure out what the heck Lonnie Johnson Jr. was doing here, as he could be seen celebrating MVS's touchdown when MVS scored. Lonnie, listen, man, you're supposed to stop this guy from scoring. Never celebrate with the enemy. Anyway, another receiver who will indeed have a great season is Juju Smith-Schuster, who has been scorching the middle of the field alongside Travis Kelce all camp long. Mahomes hit Juju here wide open across the middle, for example, one of many that occurs on a near daily basis. And then I did want to note that newly added wide receiver Devin Gray, unofficially Noah Gray's cousin, had his first catch today, though I don't have a video of it, sadly. And speaking of the word sad, this is the vibe that I got from Josh Gordon's presser today. Not overtly so, but he seems to lack confidence in some of his answers, and you can tell that he is honestly not sure if he's gonna make this roster.
You know, we got some time left here before the preseason, so maybe we'll see what happens, and hopefully I do enough to make the team.
He was then pressed about that answer, getting asked, what's your confidence level that you will be making this roster?
There's no telling. You know, I'd say cards are close to the vest, I think, as they should be for everybody, I think for important reasons. But more importantly, I just want to go out and with the opportunities I get, give them 110%, and wherever the cards fall where they may, and see what happens. But I do not have an answer for that, to be honest. I don't. You know, I wasn't a starter last year, you know, so I'm fighting for a spot like everybody else.
Gordon said these preseason games will be where he makes the most of this opportunity and show he has what it takes to make the roster. Coach Reid weighed in on Gordon today during his presser, saying the last few days have been good ones for Gordon.
Yeah, Josh he's attacked it. Really, the last few days here, he's had really good days, and I appreciate his effort, and he's kind of the senior citizen of that group. You know, he's the older receiver in that mix and has had success in this league, and the way he approaches it is full throttle, and he's going for it. And there's great competition, but for him to be in there doing what he's doing, I appreciate, you know, every snap he takes in there.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how things shake out for Gordon, who is definitely fighting for his life to make this roster, and he basically showed us all that during his presser. Justin Watson is one that seems to have locked in the 5th or 6th wide receiver spot and nearly caught a deep ball pass from Mahomes today, but sadly Mahomes missed the mark there, or it would have been another recent standout play from Watson. And speaking of standouts, the last receiver I want to talk about today is Cornell Powell, the Chiefs draft pick from last year, because he may in fact be fighting for his right at this last wide receiver spot after Justin Watson, and it's going to be a close one between him, Josh Gordon, and Daurice Fountain. Nick Roche said, I've had Watson and Fountain in the last 2 wide receiver spots for the 53-man roster since camp started, but Powell has really emerged. Preseason games will be huge for him. Fountain has struggled to stay healthy throughout camp. And yes, that is something definitely working against Daurice Fountain, that man, at the moment, his inability to remain healthy. Meanwhile, Powell has been able to remain healthy, strong as an ox, and has had some great recent practices here at camp. Matt McMullen, Chief Senior Reporter himself, had this to say about Powell's standout practice today. Powell, who spent last season on the Chiefs practice squad, put together an impressive performance on Monday with multiple catches downfield. His first grab took place during a defensive period of the 10-10-10 format as Powell went up and hauled in a contested grab deep down the sideline. The pass, which was thrown by Shane Buechele, standout for Buechele, was a good example of the fact that while these periods are designed for one side to ideally win the play, the other side is still working to find success too. Powell added another leaping catch downfield a bit later, hauling in a pass from Dustin Crum. This wasn't the first impressive practice for Powell, as he also recorded a memorable performance during the second preliminary practice on July 24th with several leaping full extension catches downfield. You love to hear that, but that was before the veterans arrived and camp fully got underway, so it was good to see Powell put together another strong morning on Monday. Interesting, guys. So let's talk about this for a moment, because some momentum has seemed to swing in Powell's favor here, the biggest being Fountain's inability to remain healthy, as I stated a moment ago, but also the fact that he's made some recent splashes at camp. And there's also the fact that Cornell Powell is 7 years younger than Josh Gordon and could also play some special teams. Meanwhile, Gordon is 31 and will not be playing any special teams. It's certainly a very interesting battle to watch every day and note the progress each of these guys make. My wide receiver roster currently looks like this: Juju, McColl, MVS, Sky Moore, Watson, and then either Fountain, Gordon, or Powell, depending on the day. Corey Coleman would be a runner-up and is also an interesting watch as well. But from here, I want to literally pass the question off to you guys like Mahomes would to one of these receivers, and that's to ask this: who the heck do you think is making the roster in the wide receiver room, at least as of right now? Do you have Gordon favored, or maybe someone like Fountain for their special teams ability, or Powell for their youth and recent standout practices? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let's literally quarrel about it down there per usual. I don't care. I'll argue with all y'all in the comments. No shame there. Make sure to leave a bearded comment or super thanks to potentially be featured in an upcoming vid. Like this vid if you haven't already because the beard said so, and then check out this video here, boo, which is Travis Kelce and Chris Jones speaking today on NFL Network. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those